I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a breaking news alert. We have updates from the criminal trial currently taking place in Manhattan court, where the Trump Organization is a criminal defendant for engaging in a fraudulent scheme to provide improper benefits to its executives, which were concealed from taxing authorities, totaling over $1.7 million in unreported taxable income. The trial was previously delayed because the witness who was testifying, Jeffrey McConney, who is the controller and vice president at the Trump Organization, got COVID and started coughing over everybody. So the trial has now resumed, and there's been some blockbuster testimony which spells big trouble for the Trump Organization and specifically for Donald Trump. So two big revelations from the cross-examination of this witness, Jeffrey McConney. The first big revelation is that Trump knew directly about the tax schemes at issue. This was brought out during examination of McConney. McConney was first asked if Donald Trump was aware of these schemes, and he said, "I don't remember." He was then showed his grand jury testimony by the prosecutors, and then he admitted that he was told by Alan Weisselberg that Trump was aware about all of these tax schemes given to executives such as Alan Weisselberg. And you may be asking yourself, well, isn't that hearsay that Weisselberg said, that Trump said? Well, an exception to hearsay is, there's two exceptions at issue here. One, it is a party opponent here. And look, Donald Trump isn't going to show up, but Trump and the Trump Organization are the defendants. They are party opponents. They do have the ability to confront these allegations against them. Of course, Donald Trump is too big of a coward to testify, so that is an exception to hearsay. And another exception to hearsay is a statement against personal interests or against pecuniary interests. And so this testimony was permitted to be heard by the jury, but this links it directly to Donald Trump. So first big revelation, Trump knew, but I like how McConney, the controller who was testifying, tried to go, I don't know, I don't remember, I don't recall. But that's why, diligent prosecutors do exactly what they did here. He said he didn't remember. They had his prior testimony ready to go, and they said, well, McConney, didn't you testify previously before the grand jury that Weisselberg told you that Trump had told him that he was aware of these schemes and that he was complicit in these schemes? Oh, yeah, I did say that. I do remember that now. So that was one big revelation. Another big revelation is that Donald Trump or someone in the Trump Organization likely engaged in obstruction of justice of the grand jury proceedings, because what took place during the testimony was that McConney, the controller, was shown a personal ledger which showed the tax scheme in action. And there was a note on the personal ledger, and the note said, per Alan Weisselberg, on the ledger, that it was an instruction to divert certain funds to pay for, I believe it was $30,000 here, for private school tuition for Weisselberg's kids or something like that. But it said per Weisselberg written on the ledger. But then McConney was shown the ledger that was given to the grand jury. And in the ledger given to the grand jury, what did it say? It did not say per Alan Weisselberg. It just listed the amounts and didn't have that hand notation in Trump's personal accounting ledger. So what happened here? Well, you'll recall that the Manhattan District Attorney, as well as a bunch of other authorities who are investigating Donald Trump, had been subpoenaing Trump's accounting firm, Meiselas, because they held a set of books as well. And then Trump has a set of books. It's the same set of books. except for the fact that in the one that Trump turned over in connection with the grand jury proceedings and the Trump organization turned over, guess what was missing? The notes and notations were missing. But in the Meiselas version of the books, guess what was there? The notes and the notations. And McConney, Jeffrey McConney, was confronted with the ledgers and said, he was asked, well, why was it that this one seems to be missing these notes? Why is the one that we have officially that was turned over as part of our subpoena to the grand jury, why is ours missing the notes? And what McConney said is that somebody can go into the system in the general ledger program and change the descriptions. And so the prosecutors probed deeper and they said, Mr. McConney, so are you saying that someone went in and deleted the notes at issue here? And McConney says yes. And so that was a big blockbuster moment that took place at the trial. So two big pieces of information. A lot of other stuff came out, but just going through the documents with McConney and showing the scheme. But what do I think is going to happen here? Well, Weisselberg has not yet testified as well. Weisselberg's sentencing for, the dozen plus felonies that he's pled guilty to already in these proceedings has been held off his sentencing until he testifies. He's got to cooperate, and if he cooperates, then his sentencing will be favorable to him. If he lies, doesn't tell the truth, obstructs, his sentencing will likely go in another direction to him that will be very unfavorable. And so Weisselberg will testify. I'm sure that will be blockbuster testimony. We will, of course, bring that to you as soon as his testimony concludes. And at the end of the day, I believe the Trump organization is going to be found guilty here. And unfortunately, though, for these proceedings where you have a criminal defendant that is a corporation, the penalty is the fine. The organization could be labeled and would be labeled a felon, which would impact all of its abilities to get loans and operates, which will have a bigger impact than the fine of $1 million+. But let's also recall, though, what we just talked about with potential obstruction. So what I think is going on here as well is that the Manhattan District Attorney is also laying out the case as well for other crimes that could be prosecuted at a later date that they are bringing to light here in these proceedings, such as that obstruction, which I'm sure they are investigating. And of course, Donald Trump is under criminal investigation from numerous other sources as well, especially the Department of Justice. And I've previously commented here on the MeidasTouch network that the midterm results were not only just a repudiation of Donald Trump and MAGA extremism, but it also left Trump very, very vulnerable because the fake MAGA Trump mirage that he had all this support, that bubble was just bursted. And like, it never should have existed before. We talk about it here on the MeidasTouch network, but all of the prosecuting authorities now see a very vulnerable, a very weak Donald Trump, someone who does not have the support anymore. I think of important constituencies that he would need to try to weather prosecutions. And I think that does have an impact on the escalation of the criminal prosecutions. And look, another report that we have done here on the MeidasTouch network, just to give you one example, is a filing just from earlier in the day from the Georgia fake electors who were under criminal investigation in the Fulton County grand jury, special grand jury proceedings investigating criminal election interference in the 2020 election. And they basically threw Trump under the bus in their filing today. And they said, look, we only submitted our names as fake electors because we thought that would be contingent on Trump prevailing in court. We didn't realize that Trump and Eastman and Giuliani and all the others still intended to use us fraudulently even if they lost in court, throwing Trump under the bus in Georgia. So stuff like that is starting to happen. The dam has bursted, and damn, it feels good. And we will keep reporting about it here on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button right now. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers. Thanks to you. It's free to subscribe. So hit the subscribe button right now. And will you also check out our Patreon and consider becoming a patron of the MeidasTouch Network? I think the midterm elections have shown how important independent media is. We have no outside investors at all. So we're not funded by the people who fund the both sides media and the pro-fascist media. We're purely fueled by you, by this community of viewers, the MeidasTouch community, the MeidasTouch network of viewers. That's how we grow. That's how we do these reports, how we do our research. So wherever you are in the world, you could become a patron. Just go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Check it out there. There's lots of exclusive content there that you love. You could only get on Patreon. But most importantly, I think it just helps grow this platform, and it means a lot. And I always get asked by you, what can you do? If you can, I know you have lots of subscriptions, so no pressure. But if you can, join our Patreon. It goes a long way. It's super helpful, and it helps continue these great reports. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Until next time.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.